Hello and welcome to Hunter Fuel, a supernatural rewatch podcast for adults who enjoy their show with a chaser. I'm Liz,
And I'm Lynn.
and we are very excited to have our friend and martial artist Andy back as a guest for Andy's Fight Notes. And we are very happy that you are joining us as we, for the very first time, because we've had absolutely no technical issues and didn't have to re record at all, watch season two, episode 19, Folsom Prison Blues. We model responsible drunkenness here. All participants are way over 21. No one is pregnant. No one will be driving, handling weapons, operating heavy machinery, or starting prison riots. If you're playing along with us, those are the rules. If you decide not to follow them and you do something stupid, don't blame us. So, Lynn, we're going to start with you. What are you drinking this evening?
This could be dangerous tonight, looking at my
Oh, I
card,
like the sound of that.
but I went straight bourbon.
All right, you've got some hunter fuel there for yourself. So, Andy, the last time you joined us, you were drinking a refreshing glass of ice water. Have you gone with the same beverage this time?
Yes, I have. I am still not aware whether I ever signed a morals clause as a teacher, so just to play it safe, I'm drinking some
All
agua.
right. It's important to stay hydrated. I am on
Yep.
board with that. All right. So, as a caveat to the featured cocktail this week, let me say that there are 327 episodes of Supernatural, and I have to come up with a themed cocktail for every single one. And that means that sometimes I have to get creative. And sometimes in getting creative, I find cocktails with names that don't make me feel very good about myself. And this episode is one of those. So the featured cocktail for Folsom Prison Blues is called a prison bitch. And it is 1 ounce each of amaretto, triple sec, and vodka, and 2 ounces each of cranberry juice and orange juice. Shake that all up with some ice, strain, and serve.
That sounds amazingly good.
It is a beautiful color and it smells really good. So I'll show that to y'all in a second. But I have high hopes for this one. Uh, Producer Mark, could you bring up our supernatural game cards for us, please? I got to be honest, I'm not loving mine. I think I'll get a couple.
Mine, if my memory's right, mine's going to be dangerous.
Oh, so you've got
Hmm.
a dangerous beverage and a dangerous card. I am loving this combination.
Well,
Oh, Lord have mercy.
I have a lame beverage and what I think is going to be a lame card.
No, that's one of our rules is nobody ever has to drink. All right, well, let's see how we do here. So as always, the first one is on the house. So go ahead and give yourselves your free square. And look how pretty that is.
That is very pretty.
That's a pretty color. It smells good. Here goes nothing.
Mm. Oh, that tastes yummy.
Oh my, that is quite nice.
That just means that if my card's as good as I anticipate, you're just gonna have to drink along with me.
I may be doing some drinking in solidarity because that does not suck. Well, if you're playing along with us, there is a link to generate a card of your own in the link tree. So with that, let's get this show on the road. So we have a then this episode. And we're getting a lot of the reminders that Dean is wanted by the police. So we've got the reminder that Special Agent Henriksen from the FBI is following them. We've got stuff from Night Shifter and Skin when the boys Well, Dean at least was wanted for murder, and we've got this last line from Night Shifter. We are so
I'm so
screwed.
screwed.
Cut to Green River County Detention Center. So this is in Arkansas, and there is actually no Green River Detention Center in Arkansas, but we're going to ignore that. And we've got a lot of prisoners in their prison orange in the exercise yard. They are not the prisoners, but we've got some construction workers working in what had been a closed cell block, but now they're reopening it. And a guy's got a blowtorch cutting through like this very heavy iron door. So they pry that open,
And of
and we get a
course,
good look at.
with this show, this of course always is a wonderful idea.
Oh, this is gonna go badly, right away. So, what we see is that the room itself is an iron room. We've got a sudden, unexplained cold spot, and then something escapes past them, and, we see the pages below.
Yep.
Go to another cell block here, and we're going to talk about this actor and what he's reading in just a moment. Uh, but we've got an electronics flicker, and this is a one of the inmates reading in his cell. And when the lights start flickering on and off, he looks out through the bars in his cell. The clock stops, and he starts to he sees something walk
Yeah.
past his door. He starts calling for help and trying to attract the attention of the guard. There's a security camera. The security camera starts to go all wibbly wobbly, and the security guard is enjoying his dinner, so he's not paying a whole lot of attention. But
Eh,
cell block B is has got an inmate, and of course the camera is pointed right at this one inmate, so that's not convenient at all. Um, but the
I
guard,
love the look on his face. He's like, "Holy shit, not again."
Randall, why is it always Randall? So, the other prisoners are shouting at Randall that he needs to put a sock in it, and the guard comes, and he's like, Randall, cool it. Randall is like, "Look, you've got to believe me. Something is going on." So you get a sense that there's a little bit of the Randall who cried wolf here. If all the other
Yep.
prisoners are like, again, again, man," so he might have kicked up a fuss over nothing before, but regardless, who's going to believe you? There's something in the hall in a locked cell block.
Yeah.
Randall goes back to bed. He turns his light out, and we've got this long shot of this prison guard walking through this dark uh, cell block with all the lights off. You see
Oh,
this like creepy, like messed up hair
oh.
following him. He turns to look, and nothing. So he figures, oh, must be imagining it. He doesn't know what show he's in.
Yeah.
He figures he's imagining it. He goes to leave, and now he starts to be able to see his breath, and the
Oh.
cell door closes on his arm. He's screaming, he's trying to get his arm out of there, and he realizes, now we can't see it on camera, but he can. He starts screaming no, and uh just
He, he is about to have a very bad night.
he's calling for help. You can see Randall like with his face pressed up against the bars trying to see what's happening. Okay, that is our title card. So I'm going to pause it here. We have a sudden
Yeah.
unexplained cold spot, an electronics flicker,
Electronics
and we have a
flicker.
meta moment as well. And I'm going to explain why in just a second here. So let's
So,
see what we've got.
so I have an electronics flicker.
Oh, that is fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah. I
I have an
can't I
electronics
cannot
flicker.
remember the actor who plays Randall, but I recognize him from Chicago Med.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about him in a second. He's been around a long time. So
Mhm.
out of those three, the only one I have is an electronics flicker.
Yeah. Yeah, don't think I've got the other two.
I have
I
only
poured my
the
cocktail on my thumb by accident.
I haven't even poured mine yet, so you're one step ahead of me.
Well, I
I
only
only
had
have
one
the
to
meta
check
moment.
off, so I didn't have a lot to do. I'm sorry, what, Andy?
I said I only have the meta moment.
You have the meta
Oh,
moment. Okay. So
Yep.
in that case, so Lynn, what did you end up with?
I have the electronics flicker.
So we each just have one out of
Yep.
those three. So cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay. So that actor, his name is Jeff Coben, and
Yes.
he has been in just a ton of shit.
Yeah.
General Hospital. He was in Big Sky, in which Jensen also had a role, although not in the same season. He was in Walker with Jared, Sons of Anarchy, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Kindred the Embrace, China Beach, Out of Bounds. I didn't see Chicago Med. I'm not saying you're wrong. But I didn't.
He did a one episode
Okay.
stint where he actually played a prisoner.
Oh, okay. All
So
right.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
he does.
he was a guest spot.
Gotcha.
He was not he was not a reoccurring by any
Okay.
means.
Okay. So that
But
that explains it then.
I
Um,
recognized him from Buffy, and I checked into it. He was on four separate episodes, and I'm sure each time played a different character, and almost certainly never just a normal human. I'm sure.
no, he plays a bad guy almost exclusively. He played two roles on Buffy. The first, he played a vampire, and his main line that he said over and over again was pills, pills. So every time I see him, I just hear him shouting pills. He was also in the first role I remember him in. It was in a film in the 80s called Out of Bounds with a very young Anthony Michael Hall.
Oh,
And so I have always every time I see him, I'm like, oh, it's that guy from Out of Bounds. Um,
yeah. That's
so
funny because I when I saw because of course I used to watch General Hospital
right,
addictively for like 20 plus years. So when I saw that he was in I think
yeah,
265 episodes of General Hospital, I was like,
yeah,
okay, why am I? And then I realized that they were all from like 2013 to like current. I'm like, yeah, I stopped a long time ago. I'm like, yeah, I do not recognize him from that.
no, he was on after you stopped watching it. Um, okay. I never saw him on General Hospital, but I would put down money he played a bad guy.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I want to say I know this will not mean anything to you, but I believe he's one of the Cassadines. And yeah, I have only ever seen one nice Cassadine, and that was Nicholas. So,
Okay. I will trust your word on that. All right, so let me explain why that was a meta moment. The book he's reading is called The Apollo Gate by Kit Marlatt. Now, that is not a real book. You cannot purchase and read The Apollo Gate for your very own self. But Kit Marlatt was the second assistant director on Supernatural. So that's why that's a meta moment because it includes a member of the cast. All right.
all right.
Hitting play. And coming out of the title card, we find the boys breaking into the Arkansas Museum of Anthropology, which also does not exist. And we get a little tag on the screen. It's 3 months later, And
Mhm.
Sam is absolutely insistent that he hates this plan. This is a terrible plan. He is not a fan. And Dean's like, yeah, I got that the first 10 times I heard it.
Yeah,
So,
now, were we gonna call this a picking the lock? Because theoretically, we know that that door was locked.
okay, let's come back to that.
Okay.
So as they're walking through the museum, they trip a motion sensor. So we've got a close-up shot of the sensor tripping. I think this is interesting because they're opening cabinets, but like they don't seem to be after anything in particular. They hear a noise, and rather than attempting to escape, they run straight at the noise.
The noise.
Now, if you notice, Dean is not wearing his signature amulet here. They walk right into the cops. Th- this seems to be a very strangely intense reaction. Like they've sent about half a dozen cops for a break in at an archaeology museum. So this seems an extreme reaction. But
I love Sam's
Dean,
facial expression there, like, ah,
uh-huh, and
what
Sam
the
is just like, "I will kill you." Their mug shots are
Ah,
awesome.
Dean is so smug there. Just
I,
oh,
I,
so
I do
cocky.
love I do love that he hits blue steel there.
We get a blue steel Zoolander look, and, this is H. Henriksen, and he says, "You think you're funny, don't you?" And Dean says, "I think I'm adorable." Now, Dean has not met Agent Henriksen. He's only spoken to him on the phone, and I love you can watch his smirk break and start to slide a little bit when he realizes, oh, this is the FBI. That he's not dealing with Barney Fife and the local cops anymore. He's dealing with the FBI, and he very quickly goes back to being snarky. But you could see just that second where he realizes, oh, I'm maybe in a little bit more trouble than I anticipated. They start reading off the charges, and we've got, grave desecration, breaking and entering, and they've got these murders that they want to pin on him, and of course the bank robbery from Night Shifter. And Agent Henriksen is like, I finally caught you. I've chased you all over this fucking country and I finally caught you. And, you just vanished. And now you trip a motion sensor. After all that, you get tripped up by a motion sensor. Pretty rookie
Wait,
move. And you just get this little grin from Dean. So,
yeah.
we have some clues kind of quickly that this is not an accident. I think
Nope.
we should call this Dean checks out a woman. He has
Oh,
the
hell yeah.
loveliest public defender.
Oh, yeah, that I mean, it he literally I mean, it's quick, and if you blink, you almost miss it, but the head does go, like, his
Oh yeah,
eyes go all the way down, like, I mean, he
he does.
clearly checks her out.
He does. He looks her over. So we have Dean. So we've got the boys get arrested.
Yep.
Dean checks out a woman. And we're going to come back to the question of whether that's a lockpick or not. This bothers me that just like in
Oh,
Usual Suspects, they have the same public defender, which would just not happen. But Sam is asking a lot of questions about like where, we're going to Green River, right? And how long do we have? And so like he's looking at Dean like, okay, we have a week before we get extradited somewhere else. Okay, I see that somebody has paused it. So go ahead.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, not only do they have the same public defender, which would never fly in the legal
No.
system, they're in the
Particularly, I
same
know I'm
fucking
interrupting you, but
room.
particularly if they think they can get Sam to flip on Dean, there's no way. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen, but it especially doesn't happen And yet, you're absolutely right. They're interrogating them together. So they're giving up any opportunity they have to try to pit one against the other.
But the last time at least they were passing notes back and forth. So I mean, yes, it was
Yeah, the usual suspects.
yeah. So I mean, yes, it was completely unrealistic that they would A, have the same public defender, and B, that that would fly, that they were literally passing notes back and forth to each other. But putting them in the same damn room, I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's extremely convenient and not something they would do. You know what? While we have it paused between scenes, all right, so we've got Dean checks out a woman. Let's take a look at our cards here. The boy
Yep, I have that one.
I would argue we also have the boys getting tied up because they're shackled.
Hmm. Because we've never counted that in the past,
I,
but
have we not?
no. Usually, if we say they're getting tied up, it's they're literally tied to a chair.
Mm,
I mean, it's
Because
on my
because the
card, so
boy because the
it's on my
boys get
card, so I kind of want to.
arrested.
I'm sorry, what, Andy?
It's on my card, so I kind of want to support it. But
I
I mean,
How
as long
about,
as
because
we
I
we
feel like that was an oversight on our part. So how about we decide from now on if they're shackled, that they're tied up.
as long as we keep it uniform, I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Okay, so I have Dean checks out or hits on a woman. After all of that, I do not have the boys get tied up. So, so Andy, you have
I
that card for
do
yourself.
I say I do have one of the I do have Dean checks out a woman and that one of the boys gets arrested.
Oh, good for you folks. Okay, so back to the question of picking a lock. So historically, we have not called it picking a lock unless we see them like with lockpick tools in hand. We've definitely gotten a bit more lax about this because it used to be like we wanted to see the picks in the lock, and we've decided like, okay, if it's a knife or a credit card that they're jimmying the lock, but typically we've stuck to the idea that we have to see them, at least the aftermath, like at least them putting the tools back in their pocket.
See now
And this, they just walk in the door.
See, I could have sworn we see them put it like in their breast, like we sort of see them put it in the breast pocket.
Okay, let's do this because at least my card is pretty crappy. I don't know about y'all, but I I would be okay with counting it as long as we call it cheating.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a start. As I said, I could have sworn I saw them put it in, but and again, I don't even have it, so it's more just I really honestly thought I saw him put it into his jacket pocket.
Okay.
oh,
But yeah, and we can definitely call it a stretch. I have
Okay.
no issue with that.
I just
All right.
realized I do have it.
All right. So can I
So
assume you are in favor?
thank you, Lynn, for lobbying on my behalf.
Well, and I also have pick a lock. So that gives me Dean checks out or hits on a woman and a lock pick.
I was like, I don't
So,
even have it. It's just that I honestly thought I saw that. So
all right.
it,
Well, we're
Well,
calling it. So I'm making myself a big one since I have two and I don't know how many I'm going to get.
well,
yeah,
I'm
Lynn,
drinking
thank you
straight
for lobbying
alcohol.
hard.
I'm drinking
Andy, you
straight
take it
alcohol.
easy there. I
Whew,
know you're not
going in my
driving,
head.
but be sensible. All right.
I'll be careful with the heavy equipment later.
Okay. So we're hitting play here as the boys, along with some other inmates, are walking off the prison bus to Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs. And again, we've got Sam looking at his shackles like, really? They're coming along. We have the obligatory prison fresh fish scene as the new inmates walk past the ones who are already incarcerated, and um Dean says, "Don't worry, Sam,
Right.
promise I won't trade you for smokes." And the camera
Oh,
stops right on this sign that reads, "Attention, inmate fighting will not be tolerated."
I
Um,
just I love watching the different facial expressions between Sam and Dean and all this because he
yeah.
Sam's kind of being well, not kind of. Sam's being cocky and arrogant as hell. And
Dean?
Dean, sorry, yeah, I was like, wait a minute, did I just flip that? And I did. And Sam's like, I fucking hate this plan. I
I
hate this plan. I'm gonna kill you for creating this plan. I hate this
know.
plan.
Well, and we've just met the boys' new cellmates, and somehow they found a dude bigger than Jared Padalecki.
Well, I mean, look at these guys. I mean, a lot of these dudes are big, are like, if not the same size or bigger. And we know these
Yeah.
dudes, they're what, 6'1",
Jensen
6'3".
is 6'1" and Jared is 6'5", and they're both like 200 pounds plus. Like they're big guys, and they must have like denuded Canada of every big guy in the country.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I don't think these are camera angles. The guy directly behind
oh, a
Jared
beast.
is eye to eye with him. Like they're fucking huge.
These dudes are beasts. So we have another little meta moment here where Sam is arguing that like, okay, so now they've admitted that this is the plan all along, that they got arrested on purpose because there's a haunting, and
Yeah.
Sam is saying like, yeah, these guys are not innocent, and Dean's like, what are you from Texas all of a sudden? Like just because they're in prison doesn't mean they deserve to die. And of course, Jared and Jensen are both from Texas in real life.
Yeah.
We find out they've got a contact in the prison whose name is Deacon. Deacon was a friend of their father's who apparently saved John's life in Vietnam. And so they're there because they feel like they owe this guy. We've got Dean Eats. Sam is not enjoying his prison food, and Dean is sort of shoveling it in, like, this isn't so bad, actually. Uh, so we'll check our cards in a little bit for a Dean Eats. We've got this really fun exchange here where, like, are you like Dean thinks he knows who the ghost is, and Sam is like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Pretty sure." Sam is like, I'm gonna need more than pretty sure," and he's like, "Okay, really pretty sure."
Now keep that comment
Yeah.
though kind of tucked away because that comment comes back again.
It does, it does. That's gonna come back around. Now, I have never personally spent any time in prison, but I don't think that you just get up and leave your tray on your table and wait for the bus boys to come and clear your table.
No.
But as they walk away, Sam accidentally bumps shoulders with a guy who's going all crazy eye on, and Dean
I
is
just
like, "No, let this go, man. Just let
I
it
just
go."
can't get over the size of all of these guys,
Oh,
knowing the size of the two of them. Like I can't get past that. It's like,
oh
what
yeah, and
the
just wait, because
fuck?
here comes Tiny. So this we're going to talk about who this is. Tiny is played by Cliff Klosterman, but we've got a fight here. We're going to watch
Yeah.
it through, and then we'll ask Andy what he thinks. So so this
Oh.
Lucas, I think Lucas goes and gets the biggest guy in the yard who then just stands there and watches Lucas get his ass beat by Dean. I've paused it. We're going to go back and watch the fight again. But the fight is ultimately broken up by one of the prison guards whom Lucas just calls boss. Okay, so we're backing it up again to the start of the fight. Here we go. All right, so we're hitting play. Tiny is standing up, and here comes Lucas. So Andy, take it away.
Okay. So I paused it. So the first thing that we have is that Lucas approaches him and he I watched this multiple times to try to figure out if he was a righty or a lefty.
Mm.
Because the first punch that he throws is this sort of bizarre left cross, which, if he were a righty, which is I think he's a righty. An untrained person would probably throw a big sweeping right hand, like a big haymaker. A trained person would be more likely to throw a jab with the left, followed up by a cross or a hook with the right. And so it was odd to see this bizarre, uh, weird left that he throws at him that puts him right into a hold by Dean. Now, I appreciate the use of holds, because they are real and they can be very effective. However, with the help of my wife Frances, we pressure tested this, and right where we're paused here, we replicated this hold, and she simply stepped right out of it. So this was not a very great hold. Now I know that narratively they're trying to show that Dean is in control of this situation and that he doesn't really want to hurt this guy. That's not what he's there for. Um, but I think in this situation, if that would is what he was going for, he could push him away. He could slip the punch and then push the guy away, and then they could re-engage, with Lucas once again being the aggressor. So okay, so in this bizarre, ineffective hold that is being used, Lucas steps out of, and he does an upward back fist, to Dean to get out, and it works. And then he throws another weird left, which this time it's a very downward left, which, once again, puts him right into another hold by Dean. Now this time he pushes him up against a post, which is not a bad idea. That's good, using your environment and trying to pin the guy against the post. However, once again, my lovely wife and I pressure tested this, and whereas she was held in place, she was still easily able to elbow me in the ribs, and she had easy access to certain certain vital areas for a guy.
We say vulnerable areas of the
Yeah,
body.
vulnerable areas, that she could have just bam, 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 um, and so yeah. Once again, I appreciated the use of the post and the hold. However, he still really was not securing Lucas very well.
Hmm.
And then I think we went as far as the foot stomp. So in this situation, then Lucas starts to foot stomp Dean, and foot stomps are legitimate. However, as the UFC has taught us, they yeah, they'll hurt, but it doesn't necessarily make somebody give up a hold that they have. So I've seen fights where people will get stomped on the foot, 10 times, and he does not loosen up a hold that he has on somebody. So,
Mm.
but I think, we'll let it go a little bit more. Yeah, there's the foot stomp, and then we end with Dean doing a nut kick, and then when Lucas doubles over, he gets him with an uppercut and puts him down. And that part is legit, because if you got kicked in the gut, or a little south of the gut, you probably would double over, and that would set you up for an uppercut. So, um, all in all, oh no, it wasn't an uppercut; it was a knee. He knees him in the face. So all in all, I gave this fight a D plus, because even though I appreciated the use of the holds, I think they could have chosen more realistic ones,
Mm.
that could have even fit the narrative a little bit better.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I I think some better choices could have been made. Now that said, uh, it's still fun.
I know I commented on this already, but I think it's like it's ridiculous, right? That Lucas goes and gets the biggest guy in the yard who's been nicknamed Tiny, and Tiny just sort of stands there and doesn't intervene at all while Lucas is getting his ass handed to him by Dean.
Yeah,
Um,
what was I
so
think
I
in real life, as soon as Dean wrapped him up in either of the holds, Tiny would have pounced on him,
Oh
and,
yeah.
and they would have gone to town on him then. But
Oh yeah,
yeah,
100%.
I think so. Okay, so while we have it paused, I've been talking about Cliff Costerman here playing Tiny. He is an actor who, at the time he was cast in this role, was also working as a security driver. Um, and a couple of things sort of happened all at the same time, where Jensen um, had retained a friendship with Tom Welling, who played um, on Smallville. He played the young Clark Kent. Jensen was also on Smallville, and when he and Jared became showrunners for well, not showrunners, excuse me, lead actors on Supernatural, he called Tom and he said, "Hey, do you have any advice?" And one of the things that Tom had said to him was, get the studio to get you a driver because you work long hours on set. Like Supernatural at this time, it was not uncommon for them to film 14 or 16 hours in a day. And he said, some of these locations are kind of far out, and if you fall asleep at the wheel and are hurt, you production shuts down and all of these people are out of work. So um Jared and Jensen started to really kind of lean on the network for a professional driver. Meanwhile, Jared's family had come up to visit him, and they got a driver. They wanted a driver for his family, and the job was offered to Cliff Costerman. So they liked him so much, they offered him the job as the boys' driver, and so ever since, he has been Jared and Jensen's personal security guard. So, like, he is to this day still their bodyguard and he still handles all of their security arrangements. But they initially met him in when he was cast in this role. Um, Okay, the other person I'm going to mention while we're paused is Garwin Sanford. He plays the guard that Lucas calls boss. He was in Lynn. I'm sure you recognized him, or say, I assume you recognized him.
Yes, I did, and now I'm blanking, but I feel like "When Calls the Heart" is what's coming to
When
mind.
Calls the Heart, and he was also in genre shows such as Eureka, Stargate SG-1, and Stargate Atlantis.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he's been around.
so yeah,
All right, hitting play.
yeah.
Fight is over. Here comes the security guard. He's telling Lucas to get on his feet. And now both Dean and Lucas are going to solitary. I love when he jams his baton up under Dean's thumb, or yeah, he under his chin. I'm sorry, it's my thumb under my chin, but it's under Dean's chin. And you can see Sam is looking a little nervous as the two of them get carted away, and he turns and looks at Tiny, and Tiny just goes,
Yeah, like, "You
so,
dead."
and Sam is like, God damn it. So cut to solitary, and Dean and Lucas are obviously in separate cells, and Dean says, I wish I had a pace ball, which, if I remember correctly, is a reference to Steve McQueen in The Great Escape.
Yeah,
And he does actually mention Steve McQueen here, but I think the film
yeah.
is The Great Escape. So Dean tries to make friends with Lucas. It's not working. And I love this little keyhole lighting through the door. And I see Dean kind of sit back against the wall and the light is right on his face.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
and all of a
and
sudden, light flickers. We've got a sudden
um,
unexplained cold spot. And Dean had said earlier, this particular ghost does like all the things you expect ghosts to do. It practically shouts boo. Clock stops again.
yeah.
And he calls to Lucas, listen to me, stay very still.
Which to me
And
is a really dumb comment.
It's I don't disagree. We've not seen anything in Supernatural up to this point indicating that that will do anything to protect you from a ghost. I think he's got nothing else. But we've got this great jump scare where the eyes come up into the little window, and then you can see one of the ghost's eyes is all messed up,
Yeah.
and these like veins start to crawl up Lucas's face.
Uh,
And you can see that it's really distressing to Dean that like he knows that guy's dying in there and he can't do fuck all
yeah.
about it.
But what
Back
I
to
thought was interesting is how, I mean, obviously Dean knows what he's seeing, but it's like the cut, like all the signs are there, and all of a sudden, like Dean knows exactly what's coming.
yeah, and he
Versus
has
anyone else would be like, "What the fuck is
that's
going
weird.
on?" Yeah, and
Yeah,
he's like, "Oh crap! I know
yeah,
exactly what's about to happen."
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we've got this scene here between Henriksen, the other FBI agent, and now public defender Mara has come in. And she's saying she's looking through the boys' files and something is just not adding up. She makes a reference to Detective Ballard from The Usual Suspects, which we were talking about earlier, that
Yeah.
she swears these guys saved her life. She the public defender is looking at the interviews from night shifter, from the people who were trapped in the bank. They swear the Winchesters saved their lives, and Henriksen is being entirely condescending. Like he's saying to her, I interviewed everybody. Anybody who says these guys are heroes was they're crazy. That woman couldn't possibly know what she's talking about. So, and he literally says to her, like, the grown-ups are working, so he's really an asshole to her. Now go to a scene with Sam mopping a bathroom with Randall, and he says, "Hey, Randall, how you doing?" And he says, "I'm 54 years old, mopping the floor of a crapper with bars on the windows. How do you think I'm doing?" Uh,
I love that line. I absolutely love it.
It is great. And this is written by John Scheiben. He's a really talented writer, I think. He's got some great phrases. But in this conversation, Sam realizes, oh, Randall was here at the prison back when this inmate we think is the ghost was killed. So he starts to talk to Randall about this. Randall says, "What are you in for?" Sam says, "Because I got an idiot brother." And Randall says, "Yeah, that'll do it."
That's probably my
um,
favorite line of the whole show.
it's I love it too. Like, yeah, yeah, idiot brother will get you in prison, sure enough. Um, but what Randall says, so they've been operating under the assumption that this inmate they think is the ghost died of a heart attack. And Randall says, well, yeah, his heart stopped after the guards were done using his head for batting practice. So the whole thing was like his records were falsified, that it wasn't they were thinking, oh, because people's hearts are stopping, the ghost must be this guy because he died of a heart attack. And Sam's like, wait a minute. If he didn't die from a heart attack, are we sure it's the same ghost? So he's like,
I
oh,
love
wait,
the line from Sam. Randall, how much blood are we talking about?
how much blood? Because we know that it doesn't take a lot of human remains to tie a ghost to an area. go to Dean in the yard, and he's been gambling for cigarettes. And of course, Sam is like, "You don't even smoke," and he's like, "Hey, currency of the realm." So Dean has amassed quite a little bounty of cigarettes here. Um, the inmate they think is the ghost. His name was Moody. So they're exchanging information here, and I see that somebody has paused it. So go ahead.
What I think is very interesting here is as much as they have very different styles of gathering information, they are both very much using their skills
Yes.
to get that whatever information they need because they've got to be fairly stealthy in getting it because if they're too obvious they're just going to come off as basically whack jobs,
Yeah.
and they've also got to be kind of careful as to how they talk to each other about it because miraculously no one ever manages to overhear them, which that's a
No,
whole nother.
everyone in Supernatural has terrible hearing. Like they only have to step like 6 inches away, and nobody can hear a thing. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And it is something that I do like about this, that the boys approach hunting from different angles, but they often arrive at the same conclusion, and frequently at the same time. So even though they have different skill sets, and which makes them, I think, a good team ultimately,
Hmm.
is that they both bring something to the party.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
So Lynn also happens to have paused on, I think, the exact shot that made me start looking at Jensen Eckel's ear. And so if you get if you happen to get a good look at that, this is his left ear.
Yes,
It
actually, I
looks
see exactly what you're
you
looking at,
you
Andy.
okay. So it seems, and I don't know the names of the ear parts. My daughter knows them because she wants to pierce all of them. But in the upper part of his ear, it looks
Yes,
kind of like he has a little bit of cauliflower ear,
like here.
which is one of those things that wrestlers get it. Sometimes boxers, if they get hit on the side of the head a lot, Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys get it a lot. So grapplers essentially will will get cauliflower ear buildup, and it's one
Rugby
of those.
players,
What's that? Oh yeah, yeah, rugby players
rugby,
because they do a lot when they do the scrum.
yeah,
They do a lot
they get
with
the
their heads. So what causes it is either you know, trauma to the ears. In it can be, you can get some from a single strike, but usually it's from just grinding again and again and again, and it being like rubbed and usually on somebody else's head or on the floor or on something. Uh, but it kind of looks like he's got some cauliflower ear, and it's one of those things that you can't fake cauliflower ear. And so I went looking to see if there was um, any in any of his bios whether or not he had done any wrestling or maybe some football. I mean, if you wrestled with your brothers or whatever at home enough, you maybe could get some build up there as well. But
mm.
uh, yeah, this so once I saw this, I couldn't take my eyes off his ears from that point on.
Jensen and his tiny spot of cauliflower ear. I don't
Yeah.
recall him officially wrestling, but I know that he played a lot of sports in school. Apparently, he was too small to play football in Texas. They
which
grow 'em
means,
big
yeah,
in
can you
Texas.
imagine the average size of a football player in Texas if Jensen is too small for the team?
Small.
I mean, unless
Now
he was a lot smaller then, I mean, because you can be tall and lengthy.
Yeah,
he
lots
was
of
a
times
little
lots of times
lankier.
guys will
Yeah.
yeah, guys will fill out. I teach high school kids, and I see it all the time. How their shoulders are so narrow, so many of them, and then sometimes while they're still with us, sometimes if they come back to visit, you can tell they've actually expanded
Yeah.
this way finally.
And so, Jensen was on a TV show in 2001 called Dark Angel, and he was still like not a small guy, but he was leaner than he is here. But yeah, they've got to just like put Miracle Grow in the food or something in Texas. But yeah, he played a lot of baseball. I know he played some lacrosse. Um, but yeah, it's not impossible at all. While we have it paused, we do have a Sammy here. Um, so let's go ahead and take a quick look for that. And while we're looking for a Sammy, these prison yard scenes were filmed on Jensen's birthday. So when he showed up to work that morning, all of these extras who had been cast as, background prisoners sang him happy birthday. And he said it was the most terrifying rendition of happy birthday he's ever heard in his life because it's these like grizzled, mean looking guys. It's
Oh God.
uh, I hope one of you has Sammy because I do not.
I do not either. And what I'm
Uh,
also disappointed at is we've had two major deaths, and especially the first one would have been the opportune moment for a gratuitous blood splatter, and I didn't get one.
nope. No blood.
You didn't
Yeah,
want
lots of
blood.
fights.
Like,
We
dang
want
mammoth.
blood. We want blood. I've said this all the time. This game has turned me into a horrible person because, like, I'm like, cry, baby, cry. Kid, come on. All
Or
right,
as
we're
my
hitting
or as
play.
my key expression has now turned into son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. Oh yeah, this
Which I might
show.
add I do have on my card, and I don't think you
Yeah, we'll
like
have to
that.
see if we get one. Um, But so back to Lynn, your earlier comment, as Sam learned from Randall, that Moody's
Yeah,
blood was all over the place. So
yeah.
now Sam is like, "How are we going to get in?" Or Dean is like, "How are we going to get in there?" And Sam is like, "I have a plan." And I love how we get all of these little hints from Dean that he is a prison movie junkie. So like we know he's a horror movie
Yeah.
fan, and now he's a prison movie fan. Um,
And as
and
well,
so he's
we've also seen from, I mean, I think we've seen the episode at this point, I'm 99% certain. We also know he's a porn movie fan. Let's be
well,
honest.
yes, yeah, he's watched a lot of hotel television. And again, Lynn, as you pointed out, that line comes back around where Dean is like, "Are
Yep.
you sure? Pretty sure. I'm gonna need more than sure. Okay, really pretty sure." So we see
And
Dean with
he's
his
so
prison
glad
food.
when his brother uses it on him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's revenge. So Dean sits down with Tiny. All of those are Cliff Costerman's tattoos. Those are not, that's not from the makeup department. Those are Cliff's tattoos. And Dean starts to pick a fight with Tiny, who,
Oh,
again, we're going to watch the fight through and, then we'll ask Andy for his comments. But, uh, Dean delivers a beating, which we know that Dean is a formidable opponent, and Tiny just could not give a shit, you know?
it
So,
is amazing how long for the, as you said, the sign in the beginning goes that they will not tolerate fighting, but the guards stand there for an awfully long
awfully long
time
time
and let this.
allowing the fight.
Yeah,
So yeah, they finally break it up. It gives Sam enough time to escape through the kitchen and climb through an air duct. The
that's
guard says,
easy
if
to
we
get
waited
that grate off,
longer, I'm sorry.
and that grate just comes off so
Oh,
easily.
pops right off, and the guard says, "If we waited any longer, you'd have been in trouble." And Dean says, "You waited long enough," which we know, if we've seen the episode all the way through, is kind of a clue.
Yeah,
But yeah, we've got a cardboard prison here that Sam is
Mhm.
very easily able to make his way through. We saw him grab a container of salt off of a tray in the kitchen, and he
Mhm.
makes his way to this closed down cell block.
Oy.
Um, and so he salts and burns here. He's got a contraband lighter, which Dean traded the cigarettes for. We presume. Again, Lynn, you love it when they stand and look at the match forever. So
One of
Sam
these
burns.
times that flame is gonna go out and they're gonna go, son of a bitch.
No, not so far. Uh, I'm sorry, Dean and Tiny are in the infirmary now. Dean's got a hell of a shiner on his face. And he's apologizing to Tiny, like, "I can't tell you why, but I needed to make you mad." And Tiny says, "It's okay. Truth is, I have low self-esteem issues." He said they had an old man who treated them like crap right up until the day he died. Dean says, "How did he die?" He's like, "My brother shot him." So, going back to Randall's comment, an idiot for a brother will get you incarcerated. So
Oh,
Dean spots the ghost now, and I think this is kind of a fun effect where she walks straight through this like grating and the
oh.
table in the
Mhm.
infirmary, and he starts looking for anything
Any
he can use as a weapon. And he realizes he's got salt on his dinner tray. So he quick grabs that, and she slams him up against the wall. He hits
wall.
the ground. Um, and so this is somewhat reminiscent of back in the episode Bloody Mary,
Yeah.
where Dean started to like bleed from the eyes, and we're going to find out her motivation, and we're going to talk more about that later. But I wanted to bring it up now. She starts to try to stop his heart. He flings his salt at her and she disappears. And then she goes straight for Tiny. So Dean is calling for the guard. He's trying to get out of his cage, which now in this cardboard prison, that cage holds. And poor Tiny is no more. So we do have Dean gets thrown against the wall. I'm gonna suggest that we hold on looking at our cards just for the moment. Um,
And I gotta say,
but
that to me, that's a second Bloody Mary reference for
Well,
me.
we're about to get the second one here in a moment. You're right. It does. There are two references to Bloody Mary. They're both oblique, but we're about to get the second one right here, where they go to Randall and they bribe Randall with a pack of cigarettes.
I
Um,
want to know where the box comes from.
I know. They were all loose before, but now he's got a sealed carton, or not a carton, a pack.
Yeah.
But uh Randall says his memory is really fuzzy. And here's this second reference where Sam is encouraging Dean to just give the guy more cigarettes, and Dean's like, "I earned these," which is what
Okay,
they
then
did in
I
Bloody
would say the
Mary.
third one then. Then I would argue that
Okay, let me finish my thought, and then you can tell me what you think the third one is.
okay.
Is the they That's the exchange the brothers have in Bloody Mary when Dean um Sam wants Dean to bribe the morgue attendant to let them look at the body, and Dean says, "I earned that," and he had earned it playing poker.
Yes.
So real quickly, and then you can make your comment, is so Randall tells them about this nurse, Glockner. And he said, Charles Bronson with a hypodermic thing. So apparently the rumor was she was killing inmates, but then there was a prison riot and she had been killed. So Lynn, what do you think the third reference to Bloody Mary is?
When they tripped, well, to me, because remember it was Bloody Mary,
Yes.
wasn't it? When they genuinely accidentally tripped the motion sensor.
Yes. Yes, correct. And Yeah, we did have that where, they apparently learned their lesson because you're right. Back in Bloody Mary, it was an accident and the guards arrived. So Dean, they're learning from their past mistakes. Um, all right. So, the boys are having this argument here where they realize, oh, they've got the wrong person, but they don't know where Nurse Glockner is buried, and they don't have a lot of time. So Dean says, let me call my attorney here, or and now, to the best of my knowledge, this conversation is not privileged because they're on the prison phones with the glass between them. As far as I'm aware, any conversations that happen on those phones is recorded. That if it was going to be a privileged conversation, it would have been in a separate room with no
Yeah,
surveillance.
correct. Also, just because I also sort of I saw a thing on this
Mhm.
is they actually said that it's a mistake. The goof is that people think it was a mistake that that conversation would have been privileged because
Yeah,
it actually would not have, because he's not asking legal advice, he's
right.
asking for general information, and that's not privileged.
That would not be privileged. So
Yeah.
Andy, I see
Well,
that you've paused it. Go ahead.
yeah. So two things about this particular scene. I think that the whole prison phone scene is such a trope that we're all used to. Anytime we
Yes.
see a show movie with the prison in the plot, so I think they maybe felt that they couldn't get through the episode without throwing
Yeah,
the prison phone scene at us. And the other
that's fair.
yeah, the
Yeah.
other thing is that um, yeah, if a lawyer comes to visit, like they have rooms specifically set aside where you can meet with your legal counsel. So, like, they could have done that, and like in real
Right.
life, that's probably what would have happened. But I think
Yeah.
they just wanted to use the prison phones and shoot the prison phone scene. So,
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And this is I mean, really at the end of the day, this episode is an homage to prison films. Like Dean
Yeah.
mentions them regularly throughout the episode. So I think you're right. They're pulling out like every prison trope they can think of
Yeah.
to call back to those like classic prison escape films. I suspect you're absolutely right.
yeah, I think down even to the way that the server flops the food or slaps the food back
Yeah.
in the face and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From up here. Boom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we're gonna hit play in a second here, but the conversation they're having is, Dean is like, come on, if you're anywhere near as smart as I think you are, you can just tell that whether somebody's guilty or not. Look at me and tell me if you think I'm guilty. And she says, I love this exchange where she says, Henriksen says you're a monster, and Dean's like, oh, I'm a monster.
Monster.
Like,
Yeah, well,
okay, yeah,
I was gonna say Henriksen. He annoys me on so many levels because he is the stereotypical, I don't want to say dirty cop, but he is going to make that evidence twist. He's going to twist that evidence to say exactly what he wants to, regardless of what the evidence actually says.
so I don't disagree with you. I wouldn't say he's a dirty cop. He's not, and I know you're not saying that either, but that he's not fabricating evidence. But we
No,
have to recognize, I think, that Henriksen lives in a world in which there is no such thing as monsters. If if people are dying, it's a human being doing it. And what he knows is that everywhere the Winchesters are, people are dead. And I think Henriksen actually has a really nice arc. So I'm not going to say too much now because it's going to spoiler alert. This is not the last time we see Agent Henriksen. But I think it, some kind of interesting stuff happens with his character. And I mean, here's the truth. It's you're supposed to think he's an asshole,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Because we're on the boys' side. And so he's the boys' nemesis right now. So we're supposed to think he's a giant jerk. All right, hitting play. Um, so as they're wrapping up this prison phone conversation, um, she has not agreed to give him the information that he's asking for. Um, but he says we're not the bad guys, and you can see her just kind of like, she narrows her eyes like she's really looking at him.
Yeah.
Back to the yard. Dean is saying no, she didn't go for it. But maybe. And Sam's like, okay, well, darn, we're out. I've already pulled the ripcord. Help is coming. And Dean is refusing to leave. He's like, no, this job's not done. And there was a conversation earlier, which I'm going to come back to because the boys are having a fight now, and here comes this prison guard we've been seeing a lot of, and he breaks up the fight between the brothers, and he's like, all right, apparently, the normal things are not working on you two. I need to teach you two a lesson here. So there's a second guard. He tells that guard, take off. I want to handle this. So essentially he's saying, I'm going to beat the shit out of these two guys. I need you
Yeah.
to go so you can't be a witness. And the guy's like, okay. Um, but there was a conversation earlier where Sam had asked Dean, don't you think it's odd that how well you're fitting in here? And Dean's like, no. Um, Come to find out, this guard is the deacon, the guy
Yeah.
named Deacon they've been talking about. So he takes the shackles off of Sam and Dean. He's asking, is it over? And it's like, well, we burned the wrong body. Oopsie. um, so they're trying to figure out, how to get to this nurse. The boys start fighting for real, and then Deacon breaks it up and they both talk at the same time.
Yeah.
They both say, what? And to come to find out, Deacon's got a letter from the public defender. And Dean says, man, I am friggin' velvety smooth.
Velvety smooth. I love it.
Uh, they're realizing that um, the nurse in question got caught in a prison riot and uh ended up with cerebral edema. She was beaten to death. Uh, so sure enough, the public defender has told them where the body's buried. We have another plate to an air duct that comes off lickety split.
Of course.
Thankfully, it's large
And
enough for these guys to climb through, right?
it's
Of
large enough
course.
for two
Thank, thank goodness for large
200-pound
ductwork, right?
exercise ductwork. Ductwork.
Oh.
Uh, And I'm sort of laughing here, and I'll tell you why when we pause it. But D- they really Dean is like, "Where do you want it?" And Deacon's like, "What?" And Dean just smiles, like, "Oh, got to make this look good." So the last shot here before we go to this black screen, and I'm going to pause on this black screen, is of Dean punching Deacon right in the face. So let's check our cards here. We have Dean gets thrown against the wall, and the
I have
boys
that one.
talk at the same time. So let's see what we've got here. I have someone gets
Oh,
thrown against a wall.
I completely
Um,
forgot to grab Dean Eater drinks. I just
Yeah, I
realized
did
that.
too.
oh,
Got
Whoops.
it
I
now.
didn't. All three of us have it, and all three of us forgot to click it. So we've got that one too.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, I
Uh,
do not have the boys talk at the same time. So
uh, I'm
yeah,
looking
there
up.
is no way on God's green earth I get 5 in a row. This mess.
Yeah.
All right, are we
No.
ready?
All
I have
right, hold on,
I have a
Cheers.
I'm
okay.
doing it
So
right now. Cheers.
Okay, cheers. Mm.
Hmm.
Okay. Oops, I left some in the bottom.
I have a
Ooh,
lot of
can't do
Sayo.
that.
Alcohol abuse. I have realized that I have made a mistake. And
Oh,
Andy,
really?
I think you were about to mention what my mistake was.
What was it? Did we skip the fight?
We skipped the fight.
So there's not a whole lot to there's not actually a whole heck of a lot to say about that one because it is pretty short. But it may come as a
You
surprise.
said we're going to watch it through and then we're going to wind it back and watch it again with Andy's comments. And nope, nope.
Yeah,
I blame my
you're
very
right.
tasty
Pretty past that.
cocktail.
Um,
So, Andy, refresh our memories from that fight that was an hour ago.
yeah, and once he was busy climbing through the ductwork, uh, I was like, we'll just let it ride. But a quick comment or two is that surprisingly, for its realism, I grade that fight fairly high. I gave it an A minus,
Oh,
um,
Ooh.
and partly, well, mostly because they allow our protagonist to get in over his head. And I looked again this time, and I really do think that I saw that flash in his eyes after he. I think it might be after the second punch that he delivers to Tiny, where he has that moment where he realizes that he's simply outclassed, and there's not a whole heck of a lot that he could do to this guy, and that kind of thing really does happen
yeah.
in both stand up and grappling. And sometimes like you just there's something here like, oh my god, I have no answer for what this person can do,
Mm.
and I just have to try my best to like not get my butt kicked too badly, but that yeah, I've got no answers, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yes, that one got an A minus.
Well, and it's something I think is really interesting that like as a person who is not a trained martial artist, I would have expected the first fight to get a better grade because it's a little flashier, right? And the second fight is just, Dean throwing punches and then Tiny just picks him up and starts to crush him.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like that it was realistic and narratively it did everything that they needed it to do.
all
So
right. All right. So we've got all the way back. Refresher. Remember the fight. And he gives it an A plus. All right. So hitting play, the boys are escaping from the cardboard prison. Most of this episode was filmed at Riverview Hospital, but they did build some of the cell block. They built the A cell block on stage and then just filmed the set from different angles.
it would have been hilarious
Uh,
if they filmed it at an elementary school. Um,
oh,
I would have
Oh
thought
God, that'd be so wrong.
abandoned mental hospital. Close. So the boys escape in, and clearly Deacon has left the car there for them, and they tear off just as the searchlight comes in behind them.
Mhm.
Here's Henriksen talking to Deacon, and he's convinced, and he's right, that Deacon knows more than he's telling them. And so he gets in Deacon's face. He's like, I want to know everything. So Deacon tells him that the boys had a visitor, that it was just their lawyer. And you can see Charles Malik Woodfield here is this great. I think it's a great performance
Yeah.
as Henriksen. He just like narrows his eyes, and so he starts to now question the attorney, the public defender, and she's again trying to kind of hedge, and she's initially refusing to tell them what they talked about. Interrupt that conversation to the boys at a cemetery. So they got in the letter from the attorney where Nurse Glockner was buried. So, and again, Lynn, to your point earlier, Dean, who was pre-law at Stanford, says privilege doesn't apply. So she has to tell them. And they're like, great. So they're going to dig up the nurse.
Mhm.
Um, and Henriksen here is really, really going for the hard sell here. And she finally says, he wanted to know, he wanted some research. He wanted to know about this nurse that died back in the 70s. Um, and she finally says they wanted to know where she was buried. And she's like, yeah, I told him.
Oh,
Um, so back to the boys. And in a second, any second now we just get a mean face from Henriksen, and now we're back to the boys and this close up of Mountainside Cemetery. I lied. It's not the
yeah.
boys yet. It's the cops going to Mountainside
By
Cemetery. Uh,
cemetery.
and they're not taking any chances. They've got 3 cars. And the way this is cut, I think, is really great. Where we see the cops pulled up, this great shot like down into the grave with the gravestone. I think that's an attractive shot, and the way the camera twists
Yeah.
around. Again, another perfectly rectangular 90-degree corner grave with shovels. Um,
With of course Dean standing outside and letting
yeah.
Sam do all the work.
Exactly. I would love to see them shovel more.
Yeah.
Now we're back to the prison, and again, we've got Deacon in the restroom. The
Yeah.
clock stops, lights flicker,
But at least
sudden unexplained cold spot.
and
So
he
we
realizes he knows exactly what's going on, like
yeah,
because he
yeah,
actually exhales to try, like,
yep.
is that, and it's, oh crap.
Yeah. So, because, the boys told him they didn't get the ghost. And so the ghost is coming after people who break the rules. I started to mention this earlier, and I'm having a hard time staying on the timeline here this evening. I blame the vodka. And, but they had this conversation where, Dean was like, she comes after people who break the rules, people like me. We've got burn a body. And just as she's about to kill, I think this is a fun flame effect here. Just as she's about to kill Deacon, she goes up in flames.
Yeah, and that's actually
Um,
the first time we've seen the flame effect look like that. Like it's
yeah,
I don't it's different. I can't explain how, but it's more it's
yeah,
that's an unusual one.
I agree. I agree. Because remember the special effects came in house this season, so they were able to
Yeah.
do more.
Yes.
Here come the cops through the cemetery. They're looking around and there's no sign of Sam and Dean. And it's yeah, the lawyer told them Mountainside, but the boys are at Green Valley.
Valley.
So she told the cops the wrong cemetery. So the boys are escaping. And I love this little shot here of public defender Mara coming out of the prison and this little smirk,
Mark.
like, you know, the
Yeah.
adults are working, huh? Like, this is revenge for the way that
And
Henrik
he knows it.
he knows it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got
Maybe you
me.
shouldn't have mansplained to her what her job was. Maybe then you'd know where your fugitives were. So-
I
And
love
there's
this.
this
We
great,
got to go deep this time.
I love this little line here. Keep this in mind. File this away where Sam says, "Deep, we should go to Yemen." Just just file that away. We're going to talk more about that in another episode. Ends with Alice in Chains, the rooster, and this great shot of Henriksen realizing he's been had, just as we hear, ain't found a way to kill me yet. I think it's a really great use of
That's awesome. That's
that
totally
song, and
awesome.
that is our episode, entirely out of order. Giant
It
mess.
it adds more character.
Yeah, hey, you don't get this kind of high production value content just anywhere. So, okay, so we need to check for burn a body. Let's see
Which
if any of us have that. I
uh
do. I have burn a body.
yay!
I'm gonna have another drink because clearly that is helping my thought process.
And I
I
didn't
also
get
have
as
burn a body.
many. I was to say I didn't get as many as I thought I was going to, so
Mm,
I'm gonna have a wee scotch with you because bourbon always helps with the thought process.
mm. Bourbon helps everything.
Yes, it does.
All right. Let's see how we did here.
Well, I
The
got
most,
three in a row, but I only got one, two, three, four, five. I got six.
okay. I also, the most I have is three in a row. Um, and somehow I managed to get one more than you. I have seven.
Wow, go you!
I don't know how I pulled that off, although we did
Y-
cheat.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. In
bonus
my
points.
head, there was a son of a bitch somewhere, and clearly there wasn't. So I was just
Not that
losing
I
marbles.
caught.
No,
No,
Andy,
I
how did you do? Oh, sorry,
I
Lynn,
knew
go
there
ahead.
wasn't a son of a bitch in there because, well, this, for some reason I feel like I knew that that wasn't on in there. Like
Hmm.
I feel like I
because
was in your spot before.
we.
Like,
There's a little
did
bit of
anybody
deja vu
happen?
haping.
Yeah, did anybody happen to notice my meta moment shirt that I'm wearing?
Uh,
Don't.
I don't know what you're talking about because this is the first time we've ever recorded
Of
this.
course,
Of
of
course.
course. So incidentally, I have to say, and I don't know if anybody caught my face when I realized I've got 8 thingies. I've got
Ooh,
8
You have
scores.
oh, so
eight. So,
you.
and you have, let's see, you also have a maximum of three in a row, but yeah, so you have
You
officially
won.
lost by the least. Well
Woo!
done, sir.
Mm.
All
So
right.
I have to toast your victory.
I was
Oh,
gonna say,
of course, of
yeah,
course. Andy, congratulations. I'm so happy
Congratulations.
when the guest loses by the least.
it's a good feeling to lose by the least. Yeah,
All right. One thing you loved, one thing you hated. Lynn, why don't we
What?
let our guest go last so he has time to think? Because I
Yeah.
don't think I remembered to prep him for this again. So, Lynn, you go ahead.
One thing I loved was Randall. I
Yes.
love such a he's a subtle character, but the actor does so much with
Yeah.
that small role. Because to me, it's a supporting role, but
Mhm.
he does so much with it.
Yeah, he's a
I
talented guy.
love it. I absolutely love that character. What I did not like, I was not in this episode to me has a lot of holes. Like I don't
Hmm.
think it's a very strong script. I think it's there's so many holes. It's like Swiss cheese for me.
Hmm.
Like between the boxes that the cigarettes miraculously end up in, the way the prison, all of a sudden you can just like pull the grates off, and someone who is 6'5" can very easily fit into them with room to spare. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the two brothers being in the same room with their lawyer. And I gotta say, and I don't normally say this, but I wasn't even crazy about Jensen's performance. Like, to
Mm,
me, he I wouldn't say it was phoned in, but just, I mean, if you're that cocky in a prison, you're gonna get your ass beaten.
mm.
You're not gonna get respected. Like,
So
there was so much about this episode that bothered me.
I can see where you're coming from, while there are some really fun one-liners,
Yes.
um, and again, I think there's a lot of homage moment to prison films. It's like they and John Shiban is a talented guy, but
Oh yeah.
it's like they just threw a bunch of stuff in a box and like all the prisons, like we'll just check all the boxes for a prison movie and call it an episode. Interestingly enough, the thing that I loved about this episode is the way that they handle how well Dean acclimates. And in contrast to you, I thought that we saw some really subtle performances from Jensen. That he you know, even though Sam has a rap sheet of his own, and does a lot of the same stuff as Dean, Dean says the ghost is going after people who break the law, like him, not like us, and there's the stuff about it, doesn't it bother you how easily you're adapting here? And Gene is like, not really, so the script doesn't beat us over the head with it. It's all in Jensen's performance. But and again, we've been talking about these kind of oblique references back to Bloody Mary. And so I feel like I get the sense that what they're going for is that Dean is cocky because that's Dean's response when he's afraid. Like Dean reacts to fear with bravado, and so he's not going to let on that he if he's afraid. But then on top of that, I think that Dean is comfortable in prison because part of him feels like that's where he belongs. And all of that, none of that is in the script, none of it's in the dialogue, or very little of it, I should say, is in the dialogue. But I think we see it in excuse me, in Jensen's performance as Dean.
See
So
now,
my perception was different than yours.
see, because we in past episodes, whenever I'm not saying you're wrong by any stretch. We can both have
Mm,
two completely
we're allowed
different
to disagree.
perspectives. Yeah. Whenever Dean has struggled with something, in my opinion, we've seen the dark side of Dean. That introverted, like the super dark, not the sarcastic. So like when so when so to me, whenever he goes into himself and whenever he really becomes a jackass, to me that's when I feel like he's hurting and showing those emotions, for lack of a better word, versus, I mean, not that he doesn't hide it with the cockiness, because God knows we have seen him do it.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I just got a different take on it.
And that is okay.
Yeah.
That is okay. So Andy, how about you? One thing you loved and one thing you hated.
So one thing I liked about it was that um, you have this issue of the law catching up to them,
Hmm.
whereas I think
Yeah.
in a number of shows like like this that lean into fantasy stuff. Like I'm reminded of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where the authorities rarely, if ever, started to, knocking at her door and came sniffing around. Whereas this, they do, and since it's an FBI guy, he has, like the national jurisdiction, and he can kind of follow them anywhere and collect evidence and information from anywhere. And that, as you had said earlier, from his point of view, when you look at all of these things, they are the monsters, because
Yeah.
like Henriksen lives in a world without monsters. Like, we're in on the truth. We're initiated, so
Yep.
we know that that's not the case. But to somebody who isn't, that's exactly what it would look like. That these guys are horrible and they've done some really awful stuff, and they just did this weird crime spree
Mhm.
across the country as they're
Yep.
actually, solving these issues and things. And so for the irony then uh, uh, of them being referred to, I believe it was the lawyer who said that he thinks you're a monster. And so the
Yep.
irony of that is, yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yep.
One thing I hated about the episode was uh, you got to do better uh, than a hold that my untrained wife can step right out of. So do better, fight choreographer.
So the one comment you made, and I absolutely agree with you that in general, the Winchesters manage to stay off the radar, but there are times where they uh, somewhat regularly throughout 15 seasons they get picked up by the police,
Yep.
not every season but with some regularity, whereas I'm thinking back through Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and about the only time I can recall Buffy being arrested, it was a setup and it was. I don't wanna spoil a show that's been off the air for 20 years, just in case anybody wants to go see it. It's a fantastic show. Go do that. But they don't know they're arresting Buffy. Let's just say that. Um, and it's a setup when she gets picked up. So yeah, despite a kind of ludicrously high body count in Sunnydale, the only time the police ever come to Buffy's door, it's a setup. So yeah, I do think it adds in this completely fantastical universe, it does add a
Yeah.
certain level of realism that they have
Mm-hmm.
this rap sheet. All right. On that note, in this very long episode of ours, this very long, meandering, out of order episode, that
Hey,
is last call.
I am
Oh,
actually
Andy, you
gonna
are just
do last
pounding that
call.
water.
Yeah.
Chug,
Oh
chug, chug,
my.
chug. Mm. Okay, that is last call. Thanks for
Yeah.
coming along with us for the ride. If you like what we're doing here, be sure to tell your friends. Please also like our videos and subscribe so it's easier for other people to find us too.
And if you want to watch Liz and I do a bonus episode, which we
Because who
so
wouldn't
do.
want more of this hot mess?
Hey, we love doing
This,
our bonus episodes and
indeed,
just
we do.
picking
Indeed, we do.
and yeah, and picking random topics out of Jared and watching my facial expressions when I get asked what kind of dog I think they would be.
I
Um,
stick by my answer.
holy crap, I'll never forget that. Um, please put topics in the videos, send us an email, Instagram, however you want to reach out to us. But we absolutely would love to do more of those bonus episodes, because heck, doing
Yeah.
episodes, just candid episodes with cocktails, hey, what can go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? So, yeah, as Lynn said, you can send us an email at hunterfuelpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hunter Fuel Podcast. In our next episode, we will be watching season 2, episode 20, What Is and What Should Never Be, when Dean makes a wish. Until then,
Ooh.
stay safe, everybody. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.